Hey, what's going on, everybody? Steve here, Rake and Profit over at rakeandprofit.com, coming back to you with another video. And in today's video, I want to share the one thing that I've done, I would say probably over the last 4.5 to 5 years in my business that made the biggest difference. Well, there's actually two things I would say. So I'll start with the first thing. The biggest thing that made the biggest difference in my Amazon business that allowed me to really scale, grow my business, make more money in less time was switching from having to go hunt down products at thrift stores, garage sales, library sales, flea markets, pawn shops, quitting that and getting into eBay to Amazon, right? So that's how I source most of my deals right now. You know, I buy products on ebay.com. I use a software called Replun Catcher. When I first started, all the products would literally get delivered right here to my front steps. And then I used to list everything with GoToLister, ship it out, and then I would get paid, right? You know, over the last 1.5 years, I switched to having a prep center. Okay, so now I use Little Owl Prep out of Ohio. I actually just got to hang out and see Frank, the owner of Little Owl Prep, at the Books and Beyond conference. But that's number one, right? That wasn't like the main tip I wanted to talk about, but like, you know, just as a prerequisite, that was the biggest thing, right? Because when you're going to thrift stores and garage sales and whatnot, like, yeah, the margins are incredible. It's the best. It's the most fun, but you're really limited by like how much inventories come out. If the competition beat you, you know, you're only probably sourcing in a 5-mile radius for the most part. I mean, obviously sometimes, you know, and in the past I would drive all around the state of Connecticut and go out 40, 50, 60 miles, but you're really limited by what's available, the competition. And, you know, with eBay, there's millions and millions of products being listed every single day with thrifting and library sales, pawn shops, all of that. You know, there's tens of thousands, right? So you have a lot more inventory that you can source from. But the big tip that I wanted to share that really changed the game for me, and this also applies to when I was thrifting, was by doing eBay to Amazon, I was able to raise my ASP. Does everybody know what ASP stands for? If not, you need to become very familiar with this, right? Because it was a game changer in my business. Average selling price. The biggest thing that I did over the last 4.5 years is I started focusing on higher ticket items, okay? When I used to thrift and stuff, and when I say thrifting, again, that, you know, library sales, pawn shops, all of that, my average selling price, right? Because I did a lot of books and media, was like $15 to $20, right? A lot of thrifters, that's their average selling price. And there's nothing wrong with that, but the problem is if you're only selling items on average for 15 or 20 bucks, even though the margins are incredible at thrift stores, you have to do so many flips. Like, you need to have such high volume. And with the higher volume, you have more pricing errors, more stranded inventory, more items to list, more items to ship, you know, just more inventory that you have to manage. So the biggest thing I would say when, you know, switching to this model is I was able to flip higher ticket items. So I was able to make more money and do less work, less listing, right? Less shipping, less repricing, less high stranded inventory, right? You know, less lost shipments. So for me, that was huge. You know, my first full year doing eBay to Amazon, my average selling price went from about 20 to 40. And then it went from about 40 to, I think, 50 the next year, and then went up to 60 and then 80. And now this year it's over $100. So that's the best part of doing like eBay to Amazon or Amazon to Amazon flips is it's the ultimate cherry picking experience, right? Obviously thrifting is great because you're going out with like Scout IQ or Scoutly and you're cherry picking, but usually you're cherry picking $20, $30 items. Now, of course, you can find $100, $150 items. I've sold items from the thrift store for over $300. But it's far and few in between because you're only gonna be able to source what's available, right? And there's not a ton of inventory all the time unless you have a really incredible honey hole in your area. But that's the cool thing about eBay to Amazon. Yes, you do have to spend more money. Yes, you know, your ROI is gonna be less. Yes, you're not gonna be finding items for $1 and flipping it for $100. You're gonna have to spend 30 to sell it for 70. 50 to sell it for 120. You know, sometimes I've gotten lucky and you buy a DVD for 10 and flip it for 50 or 60 from eBay to Amazon, but that's far and few between. But the big difference is you're not using your physical body to go hunt down deals and spend all that time. You're using your money. So if you don't have a good amount of capital, if you don't have a couple $1,000s, then thrift, library sales, garage sales, pawn shops, flea markets, consignment stores. I mean, that's where you're gonna get your biggest bang for your buck. But when you really wanna start to scale and grow your business and have more freedom, which is really my main goal now, how can I make more money in less time? I know it sounds crazy. A lot of people think more money in less time, but that's what I did. I went from spending 40 to 60 hours per week sourcing, making $3,000 to $5,000 net profit, to 4xing my net profit, now doing $10,000 to $15,000 a month, spending as little as 1 to 2 hours per week. Did not happen overnight. It took time. It took hiring virtual assistants, working with a prep center, which, I just outsourced that about a year and a half ago. It took learning. It took, building different muscles and skills in business. But, those are two of the biggest things that made an impact in my Amazon business. Number one, changing my model to something that was more scalable, something that I could leverage, virtual assistants, have a bigger marketplace. Yes, requires more capital, but at the end of the day, the game is, spending money, right? And there's always a cost. If you're not going to spend your money and have your money work for you, then 100% you're going to spend something else. You know what that is? That's your time. So if you don't have money, you spend your time. When you start to accumulate money, you want to spend your money to save you time to scale your business. And a lot of people say to themselves, I'm used to making 100% ROI, 200%, 300%. I don't want to go to E to A or Amazon to Amazon and make 50, 70, 80%, right? I want to make those killer flips. That's no problem. You can certainly do that, but just know you're going to pay a price. And usually the price comes with, or the price is time. So you're spending a lot more time. And another price is typically you're going to hit a ceiling in terms of your total profit that you can make, unless you just want to spend more and more time. Or maybe you're just, if you're in the 1% club and you've got a bunch of honey holes and library sales and relationships, you could obviously keep growing, but eventually time is going to, hold you down, right? And suppress your ability to be able to grow. So that's the cool thing about business, right? You can build the business however you want. If you love thrifting and library sales, garage sales, if you're obsessed with it, if you like lower risk, if you don't want to spend as much capital, if you love it and enjoy it, don't do eBay to Amazon. Don't do Amazon to Amazon. I'm not telling anybody to switch their model. I'm just telling you, for me, it was huge, right? Being able to have products be sourced without me. I have 5 virtual assistants on my team now. I have 2 people who source for me full time. I have someone who reprices. I have someone who does all my back end, admin, high pricing errors, sharing inventory. And then I have a bookkeeper in the Philippines. So I have these 5 people that are running my business that essentially, I could leave for a week. I could leave for a month. I could leave for 6 months. The business would keep going. Now, obviously, I've got KPIs and reports and things that I check in on. Every single Friday, I'll put a report here. I get this report, so I'm able to see how much I've spent, my average projected profit based on my minimum pricing, my net profit with seller board. I've got a bunch of different metrics. Again, you can see, but for me, that's what I want. I want to be able to use my money to work for me. And, changing my model from thrifting to eBay to Amazon allowed me to do that, and focusing on higher ticket items, right? I love the higher ticket flips. I'm talking the $80 flips, the $100 flips, the $150 flips. And I'll put some flips on the screen. I'll roll through some of the items that I've flipped in the past that I've shared in videos: DVDs, electronics, home improvement items, board games, toys. I flip a lot of different items, right? And if you're brand spanking new, you're going to probably have to start with books, right? Or maybe start with DVDs, because you're going to be gated and restricted on a lot of stuff. So I don't want to kid anybody and make it sound like, you're going to be able to sell everything that I'm selling, that you're going to be able to do this overnight. It takes time to get ungated. It takes time to build your capital. It takes time to learn how to use Replen Catcher and build your replens list. It takes time to just learn the business and grow your sales. But for me, it's been such a blessing getting into eBay to Amazon. And again, I'm not here to convince anybody to do eBay to Amazon. I would say look into it, right? If you're interested, look into Amazon to Amazon flips. Bookmind is another great software that can help you to source books from Amazon to flip on Amazon. But what I love with eBay to Amazon is you can flip not only books, but with Replen Catcher, you can go after DVDs, electronics, toys. I love flipping tons of different categories. And the thing is with books, a lot of times they're slow. They're slower selling, I would say, compared to other items and toys and electronics and DVDs, but obviously it's a little bit harder to get ungated and whatnot. But if you invest your time and your money into getting ungated, there are some huge opportunities. My average time that it takes for me to sell my products is, I have a 69% sell-through rate right now. So that means 69% of my inventory is selling on average per month, which is pretty incredible. But with that being said, guys, just want to share a couple of tips. Hope you guys are doing well. If you have any questions about eBay to Amazon or anything, you can join my Facebook group down below or check out Replen Catcher. And with that being said, guys, much love. See you in the next one. Peace.